Welcome back to another entry in The Gear of MGS. We'll continue our study of 2004's Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater with 10 new selections. When we first encounter the young GRU colonel known as Revolver Ocelot, he's using a handgun called the Makarov. By the events of Operation Snake Eater, thanks to Naked Snake's advice, Ocelot will switch to his signature weapon from MGS 1, 2, and 4, the Colt 45 Single Action Army revolver. Let's look at both firearms in turn. The Makarov, aka the PM, short for Pistolet Makarova, was a Soviet-era Russian pistol that originated back in 1949. Created by Nikolai Makarov as a mimic of the German Walter PP, or police pistol, the Makarov is associated with police and covert operations. According to nationalinterest.org, a suppressed Makarov was frequently used during wet work ops, meaning, quote, kidnappings and assassinations, where stealth, surprise, and silence were necessary, end quote. The Makarov was even included inside every Granat 6 survival kit brought by Soviet cosmonauts in the mid-20th century. The irony is that this iconic Soviet weapon, again, was partly modeled on a pistol that had been used by Russia's World War II-era enemies, the Nazis. Next we have the Colt Single Action Army, aka the Peacemaker. This legendary gun, associated with the Wild West, was a product of the late 19th century, and intimately involved in asymmetrical conflicts from the Indian Wars to the Spanish-American War and beyond. Slow to reload and lacking a safety, nonetheless the SAA was reliable, rarely jammed, easy to maintain, and accurate. During the final decades of the Old West era, this gun could be found wielded not only by law enforcement but also outlaws alike.
I see you've got yourself a single action army.
That's right. There'll be no accidents this time.
You call that an accident? Well, it wouldn't have happened if you hadn't been showing off.
But though engravings give no tactical advantage whatsoever, thanks to the boom in Western movies after World War II, the Colt became famous again in the 1950s, as it was seen in the hands of such famous cowboy idols as Clint Eastwood and John Wayne. Even famed US General George Patton was fond of showing one off in photos.
It is time for you to feel the fear.
Now let's take a look at one of the Fear's crossbows, Little Joe. This World War II-era weapon was an early experiment in silent firearms. Technically, the Little Joe was really more of a slingshot than a crossbow. It was developed by the precursor to today's CIA, the US Office of Strategic Services, or OSS. Supposedly, some were provided by the OSS to the legendary clandestine British outfit, the Special Operations Executive, or SOE. Whether the Little Joe was even used in combat actually remains unknown and possibly classified.
A kiss of death? Are you KGB?
Eva's Kiss of Death lipstick tube, meanwhile, is based on a real lipstick pistol from the era that was used by the KGB. This single-shot weapon fired a 4.5mm round, and its existence was first discovered by the West when it was recovered from a Soviet attempting to cross the Berlin Wall into West Germany. What looks like red makeup on the tip is actually a recessed gun barrel. It was only effective at a range of about 1 foot, and the weapon was cocked by pulling a string found in its base. How about Snake's cigarette gas weapon? This also was based on a real KGB weapon. To quote Engineering and Technology, Soviet specialists set up covert chemical warfare labs to research alternatives to standard wet work equipment. A nasty but efficient and untraceable method was a poison gas cigarette packet. It hid a device that fired a single-shot cartridge containing a glass vial of acid. The firing motion crushed the glass, causing the acid to vaporize in the victim's face. A mesh caught the splinters, thereby erasing evidence." End quote. Eva's unique broom-handle pistol is a Chinese Mauser Shanxi Type 17, a relic from before the end of the Chinese Civil War. This hints towards her true employers, of course, the Chinese philosophers. According to Gunworld, the Mauser Type 17 was created for the Chinese warlord who ruled over the province of Shanxi in the 1920s, Yan Xishan. Designed as a countermeasure against bandits, the Type 17 was a reworked Mauser to accommodate ammo from the famous Thompson or Tommy submachine gun. This weapon, in turn, we see in MGS3 in the hands of the Pain. The Tommy gun was designed in 1920, and it's instantly recognizable for its circular drum-shaped magazine, though a more standard box style was also used. Though designed for anti-trench warfare to reflect the new type of war that emerged from World War I, by the year the Thompson was completed, 1920, the war had ended and the US prohibition of alcohol was fostering the earliest waves of 20th century organized crime. Gangsters like Al Capone would use the Tommy gun to suddenly strike banks or rival gangs with swift and overwhelming force, before disappearing in a flash. It was out of admiration for these kinds of tactics that Winston Churchill would see the development of Britain's own equivalent to the Tommy gun, the Sten gun, as well as form a gangster-like outfit to use similar tactics, the Special Operations Executive. How about the N sniper rifle, the most seen Nagin? This Russian rifle was not only used by snipers, but also as a standard infantry rifle, in many ways as the predecessor to the iconic AK-47. Like Eva's Mauser, the Nagin dates back to before the rise of communism in its mother country, originating as a Tsarist pre-Soviet weapon in 1891. Though its bolt action rendered it obsolete as a first-rate military powers weapon by the end of World War II, the Nagin would be exported across the world as far afield as Vietnam, South America, and Africa. It's still used even into the 21st century in some parts of the world. And finally, for weapons this time around, let's look at the boss's iconic carbine, the Patriot. This weapon is a modified sister to the widely recognized M16 rifle, also featured in MGS3, the XM16E1. This experimental weapon was, like the M16, first developed for combat troops in 1964. According to looserounds.com, the key difference about the E1 from the M16 was, quote, like every US service rifle since the M1903 Springfield, it featured a device for manually closing the bolt in the event of a malfunction. But just like the M16, the XM16E1 offered features well suited to Special Forces ops in Vietnam, as it was lightweight, had a high rate of fire, and low recoil. The Patriot is the missing link between rifle and carbine, given its size and handling of a handgun, paired with its power more similar to that of a rifle. According to MGS3, as a result of this modification, the Patriot packs a serious kick, and as we can see, it borrows from the AR-15 carbine in how the pitch of the rifle barrel's rifling causes bullets to tumble, maximizing damage against human targets. It's said the sound of the Patriot's muzzle is like the rattle from a snake. And speaking of snakes, let's end for now with the Reticulated Python. Alongside the green anaconda, the Reticulated Python is the largest snake in the world. Found mostly in South and Southeast Asia, these deadly pythons have been known to consume humans whole. According to the Wildlife Learning Center, reticulated pythons are most productive as ambush predators, often waiting in trees for unsuspecting prey to wander within striking distance. They can also weigh up to 350 pounds. The reticulated python continues to be poached in Asia for blood-drinking rituals and for consumption of its gallbladder. Females will defend their eggs aggressively from predators, but only until the eggs hatch. After that, the sons of the snake are on their own. Well, that's it for this entry. Tune in next time as we continue to explore real-world gear from Metal Gear Solid. Until next time, boss.